Welcome to the weekly chart review. It's Saturday, August 13th. I'm just going to be diving into the ones that I previously picked ahead of this video, that is. I'm not going to be going through a giant spiel this time around. Let's just kind of get right into it and see what's happening. Alright, so as far as this legend goes, the blue means that there's a trade idea that hasn't hit yet. The aquas are my particular strategy that I've trained several people on, and the greens are trade ideas that are currently happening. The purples are just into season oil and metals. Alright, so as far as AUD CAD is concerned, last week I drew up two possible scenarios. One of them was right here, where it could have possibly rejected. That's why I drew a big box, and I simply said, if on the 4-hour EMA that we see a decent shift, that would be a pretty decent or pretty good idea to grab, right? And as far as this goes, there wasn't really no shift, right? So as we can see, when was the last review? So that would have been the 7th, the 6th, something like that, right? So that would have been around this area. So you can see that it just kept climbing, right? So nothing was really stopping it. There was no EMA shift there. So that the stronger trade idea of the two is more valid now. Did I just bring this down? No, okay, never mind. So that is, it's kind of what I'm looking for right now. That seems the more likely scenario. Okay, so best suggestion is to do two sets of alerts right now, one off this 50%, entering trade zone for sell, right? And then the other one would be right here, if it actually works, right there, add alert, entered sell zone. All right. Okay, so best idea, that's what you want to do, right? So when it starts coming into this range, that's when I'll keep an eye on it. It's still, you know, I mean, as far as from top to bottom, it's about 27 pips or so, 25 pips. It's really not a big of a deal, right? The stop loss is going to be what I'm looking for. So hopefully we just get a nice play action off this area. Right? It could go as deep as the top of this pin, but I have a feeling that we will see a play somewhere around the middle of this. Okay, so moving on. AUD CHF, I didn't really see anything going. It's been consolidating for several weeks now, almost a few months actually. Right? Once it dipped down right here, it's just going sideways. Not interested in that. AUD NZD. Kind of a battle in between those two. NZD this week is scheduled to raise its interest rates to 3%, according to one of my colleagues. So I believe that if you see any of the NZD pairs, what's going to happen is the price is actually being priced in now. Right. So for an example, EU Euro NZD. Right. You could slowly see that this has been trickling down. But the last 3 days, this has been dropping hard, right? So just to give you an example, it dropped about 340 pips in 3 days, right? That is very significant. So what typically I project from something like this when the data comes out is it's going to be a very weird day. Once that data comes, I predict that it's going to go the opposite way and then continue on downwards, right? The last time, I mean, the big wicks are usually the giveaways, but I'm not a huge fan of trading NZD pairs even though they have moves like this because of these gigantic wicks, right? So if you take a look at a smaller time frame, for example, it may not happen all the time, but it happens enough to make me really not that interested in these particular pairs, right? So you can see this guy, and if we set a replay right here, right, this big wick right here is what I'm going to be focused on, this guy. So let's take a look, right? We switch over to the 1 hour, still a big wick. 30 minutes, there we go. So 30 minutes, that's where everything kind of happened, okay? And it ended up moving up and down 85 pips, and then about 100. It ended up moving around 200 pips within the span of 1 hour, right? 1 hour and a half. That's what I want to say. So it's a very volatile currency to trade with. So I avoid it for now, unless we can find um, a very nice entry for it, right? So as far as we've seen, that was the wick right here. No, that wasn't that wick. That was another one somewhere else. On a 30-minute. Okay, so I guess that must have been it. Okay, so there's a potential that we could see a pullback up to there. Let me just double check, because that can't be the 30-minute. It wasn't the other setup, but perfect example, right? You see this big wick now on the 15-minute, now on the 5, now on the 3, now on the 1, right? So 1 minute, 1 minute candle. All right, and this is what ended up happening. So it went up, look, it went down and up 109 pips, 108 pips. All right, so within 1 minute's range, this is what happened. That's why I don't like trading NZD. Okay, and then the next minute, this is what happened, right? Another 66 pips. So we're talking up and down movements all the way through, and it's really junk to see all this stuff happen, right? It's not something that I like to trade in. So anyways, moving on to the actual assessments, right? So Euro GBP, I believe this was, let's switch that to the 4-hour now. Okay, this was a trade idea that I had drawn up earlier last week, and it just wicked into entry right there. So that's a very nice thing to see, right? So currently it is sitting at 32 pips in profit, right, with a 40 pip stop loss. So you know what, at this point in time, why not just bring it down to break even? I mean, it's not a huge ratio right now of 5-to-1, right? With a big rejection like this, the next thing that I'm going to be concerned about is an EMA shift on a higher time frame, because I believe on the lower that's already happened. Yeah, so on the 1 hour it's already done. So on the 4-hour one, so I see an EMA shift. It's a very comfortable time to switch it down and bring your break or stop loss to break even. Okay. All right. And then let's see, Euro USD. This was quite the turd. You saw that I was waiting for this to happen for about 2 weeks now, right? So this is what happened during this week. We get one little dinky wick that didn't trigger the entry of 3 pips, right? And then the other time it came back up, it was about 7.5 pips shy. So unfortunately, this trade I am not in because of that, right? It happens. So I mean, if I would have brought this down 3 pips lower, I'd currently be in profit about 100, right? So it's honestly, I'm not gonna fret too much about it, but as you can see, the very strong potential of that 618 being in play, right? Twice it got touched and then it dropped, but I was going off this big gap candle. So I was going off that entire gap. So if I drew it from tip to tip, it would have been even higher. But I just drew it on the gap itself, right? So that's where I set it up, and it would have worked out very nicely. However, there's always you can take a play off a 618, drop it a little lower, raise that such an evil number to see, yikes, right? Raise that stop loss a little bit higher, and risk that entry, right? But typically, once it comes into that range, it can go all the way up and go back down. 50% is the most frequent that it hits, so it's unfortunate. It's a missed opportunity this time around, but that's okay. Maybe it'll do another pullback, but it already did an EMA shift on the 4-hour, so I'll be possibly looking at another type of entry to see. But as you can tell right here, once that shift happens on the 4-hour, it's a pretty safe bet it'll continue to move in that direction, right? Like we've just been through a month and a half consolidation, a month and a half, a month of a consolidation. Now it's finally went up, it triggered the entry, and now it's starting to drop, right? So I mean, if I'm expecting the drop all the way down here, there is going to be another potential entry to snag. Again, always pullbacks happen, so it's all a matter of getting to the right time frame. So right now, you can see that bounce off that EMA line and little candle patterns right here that are emerging. So when something very strong appears, that's when entry will be feasible. It's just now it becomes, rather than playing off of structure, you're going to be watching it much more often to see what those patterns appear to be, right? GBP CAD, this little guy was a trade idea from a few weeks ago, actually, right? It was July 29th, so I must have set that up. What was it? Yeah, it would have been July 28th or something like that. 28th, 29th, the 30th. Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, it did hit entry August 1st, right? Very nicely. So it hit entry and started dropping. So this has been a pretty decent trade. I mean, it's been 2 weeks right now that it's been running, and 60 pips stop loss, so it was rather reasonable. And currently it's sitting at 234 pips in profit. So it's looking like a good trade. And now you even see on that daily we had an EMA shift. Very safe trade to be in right now. All right. NZDJPY, this was just a trade idea I had a few weeks ago, and yeah, it just kind of hit target. Like, it was just a very short trade, right? 30 pip stop loss, hit, up it went, right? Could have taken it a little bit deeper, but I was playing it off of that consolidated zone, right? So as you can see, where it was bouncing up and down from before. So as it went down here and it bounced up, I'm like, this might be a pretty decent time for an entry. So it took a sell, just made the TP down to this line, right? As you can see how it was playing off. It went much deeper this time around, but rejected very quickly. So, could have done the same thing. Once it crossed this line, could have taken the buy. But it's one of the things where if you're paying attention, it's great. But if you're not, as soon as you hit TP, you tend to forget about the pair that you were trading. All right. And USD CHF did pretty well too, right? There was a triple top right here, 1 hour EMA shift. It was perfect. It was one of those textbook examples of a trade, right? So this was my range. I wrote this exactly as the intended idea was to take. So the trade would have been right there. Okay. So that's where the entry was. And as you can see right here would have been just the entirety of the wick, right? So if I move it over a little bit, it never went back up. So this was a very nice trade to be in. 4-to-1 ratio, very straightforward. That would have lasted a few days. All right, so if we take a look actually when entry was after that shift to TP, so that was in for 2 days and 8 hours, so almost 3 days. It could have taken a little bit longer and snagged maybe another 10 pips, but 4-to-1, good short-term trade. Okay, so that one's done. I'll remove the highlight. But this is kind of another textbook example of what you see. Double tops are good, but once you see a triple top like this, it's fantastic actually, because the likelihood of it breaking through a fourth time or even coming up that high is very, very small, right? Especially if you take a look right here, every single, let's draw a horizontal line, right? Every single peak, if it actually clicks, every single peak, right? Like there, you see it didn't come up. Next peak, right? Wasn't touched. Next peak. So each peak wasn't broken through from the next one, which shows that there's still very strong momentum to take this down. And that's exactly what happened, right? So first we had that downward movement. The second and third time was a rejection off that white EMA line on the 4-hour. Not quite off that line, but as you see, both the white line and this candle pattern were in play. So it worked out very nicely. And the black line was a historic support and resistance. So yeah, I mean, it was a very nice trade to see. What I'd like to jump into is gold, right? Gold, what I see right now, I typically don't trade gold. big lot sizes, even though that they're micro and small lots that you would take, they're still quite large, right? I'm not incredibly comfortable taking with gold because it's volatile as well. But what I see right now, my long-term chart, it has hit that 618 retracements in the golden zone, right? So I'm going to be watching to see when it reverses. And like I said, always, best time to take them is during EMA shifts, right? Like this would have been an unfortunate shift. It just kind of reversed right back up. But now that, gold, like I said before, it's not something that I prefer to trade. I just moved that accidentally. Not something that I prefer to trade, but you definitely can if you like. This is just what I see right now. It's at the 618. Any day now, it could just be bouncing even off this brown line right here, which is the 618 for an EMA line, and then back to the lower side we go. Whew, pardon me. All right, and that'll all depend on USD data. When it comes in, if interest rates are going to be hiked, we're definitely going to see a push downwards. And, or no, this is silver, sorry, what am I thinking? This is silver, silver. This is gold. All right, so similar idea, like that was a trade idea way back then and didn't really work out. So gold is actually like this. So here we are. It's in the exact same level as silver. Yeah, a little bit more predictable than silver from the looks of things right now. And where could we draw something up? There's only a little bit of a supply zone here, right there. I'll just make this a little thicker. There's a supply zone there, so you can see it rejected off there one time. So I'm going to see if that happens once again. All right, if we get a rejection or if it breaks through. But lots of candles to look for. Like here's engulfing. Way up here, we don't really, let's see if we can spot something on the 1 hour, if it would even come that high. No, there's really nothing to look forward to here. Let's see, anything off the daily long term. Not really. No, not really. I would say that, as far as gold and silver look right now, it's been a very similar climb with the NASDAQ, right? So if I switch it up to that, you can see all the moves down and the movement upwards as well. It's been very similar, right? You can see NASDAQ right now. It's on my fib channel lines. It's touching it right now. It's struggling to close above it, it seems. But right now I'm predicting that it's going to go at least, I don't want to say at least, I believe that it's going to be about 300-point fluctuation up and down until this next week's earnings are kind of over and done with, and then we're going to see slow trickle downwards to the 9,000s. That's going to be a little painful, but if you can kind of see when it's going to be happening, then it's much easier to catch that. And I got a little bit of info stating that oil has a potential to rocket upwards by November. So if you guys thought gas prices were bad now or a month or two ago, it's going to get worse. In Canada, like it was pretty bad at $2 a liter. So to give an example, that's almost probably about $7.50 a gallon Canadian, right? So US, the equivalent would have been maybe like $5.80 to $6 a gallon. Yeah, we're going to be seeing maybe $2.50 a liter. So the equivalent United States, I would say you're going to be looking at maybe $8 a gallon, maybe $7.60 across the board. Again, that is a theory. I'm not entirely sure myself how reliable this source is right now, but so far they've been 2 for 2 in the last 3 months. So I would, I'm probably going to be taking that under consideration, right? Oil's going to probably be a very decent buy in the short term. to take it back up to this level right here, about 130 to 140 a barrel. That's going to be scary, but it is definitely possible for that to happen. So if I go on the long-term chart right here with the fib channel lines, okay, we saw kind of comes close to the aqua. Right now it's hanging around the green. And yeah, you just seen a slow trickle downwards, right? Especially on the daily, like we've never seen an EMA shift back upwards on the daily, right? On the 4 hour, it's been a little bit more temperamental. It's not been fun trading oil in the last month and a half. It's been pretty choppy, right? Every time that I'm expecting, I'm like, okay, here's the perfect engulfing. Now it's going to climb. You know, you sit in there for $6 worth and it looks great, and you leave it open for the weekend, and then it drops $3. I mean, it kind of sucked, right? So it is what it is. You know, oil's great to make a quick buck with, I guess, trading it in the short term. That's for a couple hours, maybe. I'm going to take a look to see where that perfect entry to snipe is going to be, because I have a feeling it's going to touch this aqua and then go right back up. And the only reason I say that is because of this right here. Right, this was as a resistance line before, then it broke through and it never actually retested. Right, so I believe that we're going to be seeing it touch this line at $85 a barrel, and then the move upwards will happen. All right, and let's just draw a fib channel to see if that coincides. Not a fib channel, sorry, trend line. Boom. Right, so right here it'll be in the red zone. It just kind of bounced off it right now. So this is where I predict oil is going to bounce off from and start climbing. Okay, it actually looks like a very nice retracement there. And if we grab that low right here to the high, and we see where it's going to be dropping right now. So you see it dropped to the 50%. Now it just touched the 618. Could go a little bit lower, right? But now it's sitting in the golden zone. Any day we could see that climb higher. All right, folks. So right now, two indicators, two drawings are telling me that we are going to be moving up. And if it starts going down, then yay, we're going to be in a great situation with our gas prices, but I don't expect this to last. All right, folks, so that kind of does it. It concludes my chart review for Forex. Hope it's been helpful, and I'll see you next week.